have or have had talk shows at one time or another. Their backgrounds vary from comedy to theater to journalism, and their shows are just as diverse. All of these men and women have shared a role in defining American culture since the beginning of television. Talk shows are divided into two basic forms, news and entertainment. Most viewers identify the term talk show with entertainment. Talk is not all news or entertainment. Sometimes the forms converge, resulting in a kind of crossover that combines elements of news and entertainment. However, news talk is usually serious. Many of the early titans got their start in radio and then carried their shows to the new medium of television in the 50s.
The actions of the junior senator from Wisconsin.
Edward R. Murrow, who came from a hard news background on radio, was perhaps the most respected journalist of his time. He pioneered broadcasting by establishing three traditions which are still practiced today: the use of spontaneous filmed conversation, celebrity journalism, and transatlantic conversation. Murrow's answer to Senator Joseph McCarthy on See It Now in 1953 was one of his best-known live broadcasts. It helped to turn the tide against McCarthyism, and it demonstrated the intensity with which Murrow could speak to the viewer through the television screen. It encompassed everything Murrow stood for.
But the line between investigating and persecuting is a very fine one, and the junior senator from Wisconsin has stepped over it repeatedly. And whose fault is that? Not really his. He didn't create this situation of fear. He merely exploited it, and rather successfully. Cassius was right. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves. Good night, and good luck.
Arthur Godfrey came from an entertainment background on radio. He effectively established an intimate, sarcastic relationship with his audience.
We were very fortunate in being able to get a photostatic copy of the New York Times for August 31st, 1903. That was the day I was born. And I see here on the front page of the New York Times, absolutely no mention of it. One of the oldest hotels in America.
Yes, they're going to do it over very shortly.
Are they? They're not going to spoil that wonderful old room now, are they?
No.
The old Ebbett. You're talking about the old Ebbett.
The Abbott at 10th and H Street.
Yes, that's the one where Abraham Lincoln used to go and everybody.
Well, that's a little before my time, Mr. Godfrey.
As we will see later, echoes of Godfrey's unique style remain today through the sarcasm and irreverence of David Letterman.
Speaking of the cast and crew, this gentleman right here is one of the actors in the new fall series for NBC. It's called Chimney Police. We're expecting big things out of that. Keep up the good work, sir. We'll go on over here.
Dave Garroway's career began as an announcer and reporter in Chicago and New York, but he is most remembered for his ad-lib style during his radio days. This style followed him throughout his 9 years as host of The Today Show.
And the time, 12 minutes after. Time for a station break.
The first host of The Tonight Show, which premiered in 1954, was Steve Allen.
Specially selected this particular theater. This is a New York theater called the Hudson, and we especially selected this for this very late show because this theater's, I think it sleeps about 800 people.
Allen's wacky imagination, lightning verbal reflexes, and music talent was complemented by a willingness to engage serious topics and guests. If Steve Allen invented the late-night variety show that featured talk among its elements, it was the unpredictable Jack Parr who made talk itself the undisputed center of the show.
I remember Hamlet every night. I don't know. He never gave me any notes.
In 1957, Parr succeeded Allen as host of The Tonight Show. By this time, Parr had done a little bit of everything: an announcer and newscaster on radio, an entertainer during World War II, stand-up comic, even an actor. But his greatest contribution was the development of the late-night conversation format that Johnny Carson made into an institution. Like other founders of the TV talk show in the 50s, Arlene Francis had already established a significant track record as an actress, game show participant, and FemC. She would later go on to be a panelist on one of the longest-running game shows on television, What's My Line? But for 3.5 years, from 1954 to 1957, Arlene Francis was the host of the best-known public affairs talk show on television. The home show set a standard for intelligent programming for daytime audiences, appealing particularly to women. Not until Phil Donahue, 2 decades later, would another program capitalize on television that talked up to, rather than down to, a national audience. All of these hosts, by the early 1960s, were eased or forced out by network hierarchies. The talk show hosts who survived in the next decade of television were tough, resilient negotiators who worked their way up through the network system. Johnny Carson's first taste of show business was as a magician and later as host of the game show Who Do You Trust? He eventually succeeded Parr as host of The Tonight Show and as the king of late-night talk, a title he would hold for nearly 30 years. Carson's talent was already evident in the 50s when his show The Squirrel's Nest premiered.
And we hope this program won't let you down, and frankly, we know it will.
Carson's skills as a negotiator and master of publicity were also considerable. In the late 1960s, the first late-night talk show wars broke out as all 3 networks realized the profit potential of late-night TV. Carson faced challenges by many, especially an Ivy League educated comedy writer and stand-up comic named Dick Cavett. Cavett's ABC show created some of the most memorable moments in talk show history.
I'd like to talk to this audience, because this audience has been curiously hostile to me from the word go. Now, I want to ask all of you something. Are you really all truly idiots, or is it me?
Oh, that was the easy answer. Come on.
I've got to see a doctor because there's something wrong with me. What can it be?
While Carson, Cavett, and others were developing entertainment talk ideas pioneered by Allen and Parr, a new star of TV talk began her ascent. Barbara Walters started as a writer for The Today Show at NBC. She sharpened her skills as an interviewer and journalist and eventually became a co-host on Today.
We'll start with this interview. If this is okay, we get some, well, maybe we'll do another interview.
In the mid-1970s, Walters became the first million-dollar host of News Talk when she left NBC and moved to ABC, where her in-depth interviews of celebrities and newsmakers continued to build her reputation.
If I were a man, I would not marry a woman with a career.
Another journalist who was coming into prominence at this time was Mike Wallace. Wallace paved new broadcasting ground with the close-ups, cameo lighting, and tough, confrontational interviewing style of his 1950s Night Beat. He resuscitated his tough question Night Beat persona in the late 1960s and, along with Harry Reasoner, co-founded what remained for almost 25 years the #1 news show on television.
I have told you on more than one occasion that I am a Catholic.
Yes.
That I don't beat my breast and say that I'm the best Catholic in the world. And you have no right to sit in judgment on me.
I'm not sitting in judgment. I'm simply asking a question.
The 1970s saw a challenge to network domination with the rise of cable, syndication, and public broadcasting. One of the largest beneficiaries of this new competitive situation was Phil Donahue, whose show expanded its audience until it became the #1 talk show in syndication by the end of the decade.
Governor, I was told that you would come here prepared to talk about your character.
How would you like it if I spent $500,000 looking into your life and asked you questions like this?
I guess
How would you like it?
I guess at this point in our national political life, I would have to expect it if I presume to offer myself as a candidate for the most powerful office on earth.
Donahue's show stirred up controversy in the 70s by introducing debate on subjects like sex and gender roles, abortion, and racism, all of which were considered taboo at the time. Bill Moyers first appeared in the early 70s on the show Bill Moyers' Journal. While he did not achieve the immediate mass audience of some of the Titans, he continued the Edward R. Murrow tradition of enlightened conversation with newsmakers, artists, and thinkers.
Seems to me that the genius of the document and the system is that it provides for a means of settling our disputes without resort to violence.
No question about that.
Even while we are changing radically
Absolutely.
the document by which we live.
Absolutely.
The 1980s is referred to as the post-network era because the networks clearly lost their domination. Through this decade, network audiences shrank from 90% to 65% of those who watched. A wide range of new talk show hosts arose, principal among them Oprah Winfrey. After a clever national marketing campaign by her syndicator, King World, Oprah Winfrey became the most successful of Donahue's followers, setting a new record in syndication earnings. Oprah played with viewers' emotions, covering sensitive topics and drawing on her own experiences and expressions of empathy.
It's only been 3 months, so it's not a lot.
I'm sorry.
I think that there are probably a lot of people in this audience who have been through it and can tell you that, I guess time helps. I don't know.
This is ABC News Nightline.
It was inevitable that the networks would fight back to regain their audiences. In the 1980s, two titans emerged from the network strategy. Ted Koppel gained high regard from his viewers for his work on the nightly ABC series Nightline. Koppel used the technology introduced by Murrow to talk to world leaders and analysts about current issues. But Koppel's highly rated show had competition from the entertainment side of the spectrum.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. I appreciate that deeply. And welcome to our Thursday night broadcast. My name is Dave. Please call me Dave. Well,
David Letterman went to Los Angeles in 1975 to write comedy scripts and do stand-up comedy. He landed several forgettable roles on network television before late night and had a critically acclaimed but short-lived morning show. Eventually, he found an audience for his offbeat, irreverent humor in late-night television.
ladies and gentlemen, Zippy and the Late Night Monkey Cam. Zippy, come on out here, buddy.
Often more remembered than Letterman's celebrity interviews are his conversations with civilians and lesser-known entertainment personalities.
I'll tell you what, after the show, let's go looking for babes.
Differences with NBC led to Letterman's departure from late night in 1992.
See this little story, and I say, what the hell is going on? Turns out now, NBC is moving to CBS.
At roughly the same time, talk show skirmishes lit up the screen as various newcomers tried to outdo each other.
You're glad there's competition?
Yeah, I think it makes it real interesting. I think it's better for the game. I mean, the more teams you have playing, the more people that go to games.
Talk shows weren't just about entertainment and emotions. They dealt with basic political issues as well.
And the Democratic candidate, Senator John F. Kennedy.
It didn't take politicians long to realize they could benefit from the popularity of talk shows.
Bob from Kansas, hello.
Hey, Larry. Jay,
Yeah,
how you
Bob.
doing?
Hi.
Hey, Jay, one thing I've learned about Larry, he likes it when his guests announce their political intentions on his show. So if you want to tell him tonight you'll be my running mate, go right ahead.
It's Bob Dole.
Oh, it's Bob Dole. It is Bob Dole. He's one of my best guests.
In fact, politicians had appeared on talk shows since they began.
Stopped and put up his hand and said, you can't go any further. And Jack got up and said, but I'm Senator Kennedy. I belong in the parade. And he said, I don't care if you're Jack Parr. You're not going to get in there.
How is a viewer or listener to make sense of all this talk? Though it resembles our daily conversations, television talk follows its own rules. Rule number 1. The host is the center of the show.
Here's that man himself, Arthur Godfrey.
Rule 2. Whether live, Taped as if live or replayed at a later date, television talk always takes place in the present tense.
And we remained low men until he ran for president. Now he's up.
Rule 3. The host speaks directly and intimately to millions of viewers.
So that their stories won't have to become your story.
Rule 4. A talk show is a commodity, competing with other commodities, and time costs money.
You want to do this first? Of course. A dollar is always a dollar.
Nothing's changed.
That's right, and that never will.
Rule 5. Talk shows are crafted by teams of professionals and structure spontaneity. Talk has been the anchor of late night, morning, and daytime time slots throughout the history of television. Although the faces and styles have changed throughout the years, television talk, in all its forms and subgenres, has always reflected a combination of its viewers' interests and what the television industry thinks viewers will watch. Television talk has always represented more than its immediate popularity. It has constituted a history of public conversation, a social history of its time.
Listen, why don't you shut up and let me talk, you know? Maybe the punchline will contain your answer, you know? So don't be so constipated.
I'm
Just
disappointed
relax.
that you're so...
I'm disappointed in you.
You're so incapable of functioning.
I'm totally incapable of... I'm a misfit. Haven't you realized? I'm a misfit.
We had a lot of talk, but no conversation. We never discussed anything, and that is a difference.
Well, do you think that I'm just going to fold up and just allow you to walk on my inanimate body, as you might say? Because if you do, you're very, very much mistaken. The art of conversation is gone. It's been murdered by lunatics, mostly from the United States.
Use that word about whores. We'll start a war right here now. Right. You let that come out of your mouth one more time, and you will have...